Welcome to the Bristol Business Connection. The Bristol Business Connection is a production of the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce, Fall River Community Media, and of course, Bristol Community College. Every month, the Chamber of Commerce will interview guests about the issues impacting business right here in Bristol County. My name is Jennifer Lorenzo. I'm the Communications Manager at the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce. And my guest today is someone that's very familiar to many people, and that is Joanne Sprague, the Executive Director of the Children's Museum of Greater Fall River. I had to make sure I got that correct this time.
Yes, thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here. And I know the Children's Museum, you are so passionate about the museum and early childhood education. So tell me a little bit about why this project and having the museum was so important to you.
Sure. Well, early childhood is my field. I was an early childhood educator for over 40 years in 3 different states at different capacities. And so early childhood has always been a passion of mine. And particularly today, here we are 40 years after plus since I graduated from college, and we're still trying to convince people about the importance of early childhood education. And to me, that's a problem. And so looking at this community, we lived in Rhode Island for several years, and we had a great children's museum there. We lived in Virginia. We had great children's museums there. And we moved to Fall River, and we don't have one in the South Coast. I understand there was one in Dartmouth before our time. And so a gentleman by the name of Ray Gordon had started the campaign and had a museum without walls. And I joined the board, and my passion showed. And before I knew it, it was my baby. And so I'm the director of the Museum with Walls. And very happy to serve in that capacity. Because of my background in early childhood education, that is a lot of my emphasis besides the other jobs and the other part of my job description. I do teacher trainings throughout the community for a couple of different agencies and some parent groups as well. So anywhere I can, I try to promote the importance of early childhood.
Absolutely. Now, when people come to the museum, if they've never gone before, can you talk a little bit about the experience and what they see and are able to do?
Sure. Well, part of the language of Children's Museum from the Association of Children's Museum tells us that oftentimes children's museums are the first museum someone may visit. So some people think that museums are only for a certain educated population or what your socioeconomic status is. And so by coming to a children's museum, sometimes people are a little uncomfortable at first, and you get it when you see them come in, and they'll say, well, what do we do? And does somebody show us around? And so forth. And we say, no, it's time for you and your family to explore, discover, and grow. And so it's so great when you see a family by the 2nd or 3rd exhibit start to feel comfortable and see a parent or caregiver or grandparent engaging with that child. And that's what it's all about. We don't have signs up, I would like to do it, but leave your cell phones, except to take pictures. But it's a time to interact with your child. So each room is themed with a specific theme, but each one from music to water to dinosaurs. The only electronic exhibit we have is a virtual gaming floor, but it's gross motor. The kids jump, dance, play soccer, all those kinds of things. So they're not sitting with iPads.
Technology. And speaking of early childhood education, it's so important these days because, like you said, they're on iPads and on technology, cell phones and whatnot, and a lot of kids aren't playing with crayons or scribbling, I think you've said in the past.
Yes, I have, yes. Well, in fact, in our room called the Education Station, we do have signage on the wall explaining to families about the early stages and why you have to scribble before you can write. So validating the importance of that early skill that toddlers and early preschoolers need to do that scribble movement before they can do that. And then the other component we have is a lot of pre-STEM and early STEM kinds of things. So tools to grasp with and scissors to cut with and crazy scissors and all those kinds of things to help with those fine motor skills.
And it's important for parents to put their technology away too. I know
Absolutely.
that we've talked about this on numerous occasions.
Yes, it is. You know, and I'm sure they don't even realize what they're doing because we've become so reliant on our cell phones. And so you'll hear a child, you know, calling mommy, daddy, look what I'm doing. And it takes a minute before the parent realizes and looks up from that phone that the child's saying, hey, look at me, you know, look what I'm doing, or invites them to play the game with them or sing on the stage or whatever it may be.
It's nice. Now, what are some things that parents can do at home when it comes to early childhood education and some staggering numbers these days about children not being able to, you know, necessarily hold a pencil when they go to kindergarten or draw a square or circle or things like that? What are some things to keep in mind parents might be watching the show at home to do with their small children to make sure that they are getting the things that they need to grow and for brain development?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the first thing we need to start with is talking to your child and reading to your child, even as an infant. You know, word is so important. You know, back in the day, I know when I was a child and then my kids, raising my kids, we were in the car, you'd go on a trip, you'd play license plate games and look for certain cars or the Beatles or whatever it was. You'd play these games. It would just be conversation. And today we live in such a hectic world of what families are faced against. If it's a two-parent family and they're both getting out to work, the easiest thing in the world to do is turn the TV on or hand the child the iPad, help get them dressed, put their shoes on, all those kinds of things, because it takes time. So little things like getting clothes out the night before, so you won't have those issues in the morning. I don't want to wear that. I want these shoes, whatever. It may still happen sometimes, but you'll alleviate some of those things. But, you know, sit down if you can for breakfast, you know. Just have conversation. And then maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day, maybe while you're fixing dinner, you know, just have a table set up. I know my daughter-in-law does it, and it's just a wooden box type thing on the dining room table that has, you know, scissors and pencils and crayons and so forth, and the kids can just, you know, sit there and make a picture, whatever, still be in view, in talking distance, you know, to her. So, you know, nothing formal. You don't need a craft kit or something. Just basic, you know, scrap paper. It can be, you know, it doesn't even have to be new paper, but just giving them those opportunities to color, to scribble, to begin to hold the scissors and do those early, you know, kinds of cutting skills are just really important. Tweezer type things, you know, pick up cotton balls, you know, count Cheerios, M&Ms, you know, whatever it is. Just think of ways that you can begin those early letter games. You know, you can do it in the car, you can do it on the cereal box or the milk container or whatever, but just make them teachable moments. It doesn't mean you have to go out and buy an expensive, you know, pre-kindergarten kit. Just be creative with what you have around your home and make that a teachable moment.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the interaction and the motor skills, especially brain development at the early ages?
Yeah.
I know you've talked about some statistics and things like that before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so key that there is no time in our life. The first 5 years of development is the most brain development in our entire lives. And so toddlers, 18-month, 2-year-olds that don't get the proper stimulation, you know, if there's failure to thrive in infants, you know, and how they recover. There's a term called toxic shock, and it talks about if young children, you know, have horrendous emotional, you know, things go on in their life, or they're not held and hugged and all the things that those early years need, that it's a significant, you know, for the rest of their lives, this can affect them. And the older they get, without getting these basic needs, on the social emotional. And we're seeing today in our schools such a high evidence of social emotional issues. So that's a concern. We want to develop the whole child. So they need those, basic needs as well as, their nutrition. And so one of the newest exhibits we put in at the Children's Museum on the second floor, we call Healthy Living, Healthy Lifestyle. And even the mural on the wall is kids jumping rope and, playing outdoors. And the sun is a lemon with carrots around it, and there's broccoli in the bushes. And just, planting those seeds about how important nutrition is too. And then there's a kids' gym. They've got a little gym, and they got workout equipment. The floor that is computerized, that they can play the games. And then a doctor's office sponsored by one of our own pediatric groups, Pediatric Associates, helping to take away some of that fear of the doctors. And they get to examine their baby dolls. And there's a life-size operation game in there. And there again with the tweezers, for the open shut to pick up the organ, but it's life-size. So for the younger ones, it's nice big compartments. For the older ones, people remember Operation when they were a kid. Yeah. And so you get all ages playing on those kinds of things, and that's what we need, and that's what we want, is that engagement, talk. You just can't do enough to develop the brain. It's just that communication is so key. We see a lot of referrals for speech, and a lot of it is, there's a newer, it's always existed, but we hear more of it as selective muteness. And there are, children, they'll only talk to a parent or a selective person that they choose to speak to. They have speech, but they won't, like in a preschool classroom setting, they won't talk to peers or their teacher. They'll do what they're supposed to do, but nonverbal.
Now, what about early childhood education in the area before they hit that kindergarten stage? Is it available? Do you see that people aren't, choosing, that early childhood education?
Sure, it's available. It's for low income. It's difficult because of some of the cutbacks on the federal level recently, so Head Start's waiting list. The centers, most that take vouchers for working parents to subsidize their child care. There's waiting lists for those too. And private, if you're making minimum wage, you can't afford it.
Right.
And having formerly owned a center in Rhode Island, I can speak to that directly. And if you're trying to offer quality, there's no money to be made in it, unless you're a big franchise. And what ends up happening, you have a mother, that's working full-time in a minimum wage job. If her funding gets cut, she can't stay in it. And when President Bill Clinton was president, he did a whole White House symposium on early childhood, and he made a statement that it is the most over-regulated, over-educated, low-paying job that there is. And think about it. Who are some of our lowest paid educators of young children and caregivers of the elderly? Two of our most vulnerable populations. And, what does a CNA make? What does an aide, even coming out of a community college with an associate's degree, someone may start at $12 an hour if they're lucky with an associate's degree. And some of their, other fields that are chosen, are coming out making $25 and $35 an hour. So it's very unfair, and we're not going to continue to get quality people. When I was first married, we moved to Virginia, and they didn't recognize early childhood as a separate major in 1975. And I had to go back to take elementary education courses. So I was teaching in a preschool at the time, and my husband said to me, "I think you'd make more money bagging at the local supermarket, because on top of the low pay, it was what you put back into your classroom. So if you were dedicated, and public school teachers do
absolutely.
that too, and you know because your mother's in the field, you know, that you do. You just buy things that your classroom's lacking, and that's the kind of dedication we've always had, and we've been very lucky to have. And I don't know, you know, hopefully the next generation will continue with that, but I'm not sure. So we definitely need some changes in the funding and helping to raise the bar on pay for early childhood. In Rhode Island, they require the head teacher to have a bachelor's degree to be a certified teacher. And I also had a nurse on staff 15 hours a week if you had infants and toddlers. So your payroll was high. The quality was there, but you had to charge X amount because of what the requirements were. And it was hard for somebody on minimum wage couldn't afford it.
And it's unfortunate because the children get behind.
Exactly.
And then if you're not spending time taking them to the children's museum or doing those activities with them, it falls upon the kindergarten teacher, and they're ready to move on to something else, but they don't have those basic skills yet.
Because kindergarten is so academic today. It used to be a lot of the skills that were required for kindergarten are now preschool skills. So we used to say, you know, the simple counting, you know, to 10 and writing your first name, and kids are getting all of that in preschool now. So kindergarten, you know, they're beginning to read in the second semester. And I have a granddaughter in kindergarten in New York, and you know, she's reading, and she's young. So if a teacher doesn't have an aide, if they don't have an aide with them, can you imagine that you have children that know their letters, recognize their name, know their address, and all those, you know, early skills, and to be able to have, you know, the time to spend with those children to take them to that next level. And then you have kids coming in that can't barely draw a circle and don't recognize any letters, never mind their name. You know, how do you balance that out? I've always said that I think throughout the years of education, there are years that are a step and a half, and I consider 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th. And those are the grades that if you don't have the maturity and the skills, you know, you're going to fall behind. And today they say if by 3rd grade a child isn't reading close to grade level, they're going to have trouble for the rest of their education.
So it's important to grab those books and spend the time with your children.
Absolutely.
And let them just be kids and let them play.
And that's what we're seeing too. We're seeing more older children come in. We say our age range is 2 to 10 primarily, but we're seeing more 10, 12-year-olds coming in. And I think they like the idea of the open-ended, you know, that they can go into the recycling room and grab some bottles and tubes and duct tape, and they're in there for a couple of hours, you know, or be on the keyboard or up on the virtual gaming floor. And they love that nobody's saying, you know, this is the way you have to do something. And we're so structured. They're teaching to the test. It's classes after school. And they don't get a chance to just go out and stay out till the street light goes on that my generation did.
I like playing with Lincoln Logs still and things like that. If you see a little kid and you get down on the floor with them, I mean, those things are fun, and you can do that at the Children's Museum, and it's amazing what you offer. But I know you have a very special kind of program right now to raise some money for something, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, what's going on as far as expansion is concerned at the museum.
Yes, so we're in our biggest campaign to build the largest exhibit that we've built. We've tried to be good stewards always, but particularly the past 5 years since we've had the building, we've done a lot of exhibits on a shoestring, thanks to many community partners, including Bristol Community College, that built some exhibits with students, and they were exhibits that, you know, their quality, but we were able to save, you know, so many dollars, and it was a win-win for both of us. I love to see, for instance, we had a young professor here that built the dinosaur room, and the students came in over a summer. The course was design museum fabrication. Students spent the summer there building with the dinosaur pit and the cave and so forth. And it was getting to the painting stage, and one of the staff opened a side door to give a family a glimpse.
Oh.
And when that BCC student on the other side saw the eyes of the two children, it just brought it to a whole new level for her. And she came to find me to say, oh, you know, I just saw those kids and they're so excited. And now I'm even more excited. So it was a win-win on both ends. So we're very excited. But this one, outer space, we're putting an indoor climber in with a space theme. And we had to follow federal guidelines for this one. So it's costly. It's about a $140,000 project. So we've got the flooring in, and we raised the money for that, which was $33,000 with the proper padding and all for a climber. And we paid $45,000 for the first half of the equipment. So little sweet talking, they've agreed to send us half because it's coming from Texas in 2 trucks. So I said, come on, we paid for half. Please let us have half.
Yeah.
So actually that's going to happen. So we're expecting first week of May for that shipment. Thanks to your colleague here, our own Steve Rise, we're getting the judges' bench converted into the control station. And so we're certainly looking forward to that aspect. So the kids will have levers and bills and screens and things.
It's like a big jungle gym type.
Well, that will be out in the middle, but at the judges' bench there'll be stations where the kids can pretend they're at Cape Canaveral and go from the 60s up till the present of what it looked like then and what it looks like now. So there'll be interactive things for them to do, fine motor as well as the gross motor on the jungle gym type thing. So we're very, very excited about it. Got a couple of grants out there. We're still looking for donors, if anybody. We have a wall downstairs, and anyone from $20 on up gets a star or a planet. And so there's a lot of excitement building from within. We get families coming in every week. Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet?
Now you have to tell the story about the rocket ship and how that kind of evolved to go into the existing structure as part of the space.
Yeah.
The dome.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, that was the first thing we saw when we looked at the building 6 years ago, and we had some ideas for other rooms, and then we walked up to see if anybody's been in the former Superior Courthouse. It's just a magnificent courtroom. And in the middle of it is this dome that goes up 24 feet. And we just stood there and said, outer space. It was just like, it
works perfectly. It's amazing.
It's perfect. It's just perfect. So that's been our goal. And by keeping the judges' bench, I think, you know, we've tried with the building. We haven't torn it apart. We had an architect that came in and said, take this wall down, take that wall down. Well, besides the prohibitive expense, so there's so many kids today with attention issues and on the spectrum that we get a lot of good remarks about having walls. And so if you're in the Lego room, you're building Legos. And so it's nice to have, you know, that room. The noisier rooms are closed off, and families seem to appreciate that on a lot of different levels. Anyway, this will, by keeping the judges' bench, we are kind of honoring the past
history,
and what it was, and, you know, giving it new purpose. And I think that's what we've done. We often say, if these walls could talk, but it's a much happier place now. So we're glad about that.
Absolutely. Now you also have a couple of events that are fundraisers necessary for you know, the continued operation of the museum that I wanted to mention as well.
Yeah. Well, the one coming up very soon is a Sinatra night. And
who doesn't like Sinatra?
I know. So it is a night with Michael Dutra, is a fairly well-known Sinatra impersonator, if you will. They even share the same birthday.
Oh, there you go.
So there's some connection there. But it's going to be on Friday, April 27th. Doors open at 5:30 at the Cultural Center, and right on South Main Street. The tickets are $50, includes a family-style Italian dinner, the show, and valet parking. So we think that's a good ticket, and we still have tickets available for a while longer.
You can just call the museum?
You can just call the museum, 508-672-0033 for tickets, and we'd be glad to hold a ticket or stop by and check us out and pick up a ticket as well. We will have a painting party. We have a few a year, so on Thursday, May 17th, we'll be painting a pretty still life of azaleas for spring, and that's a $30 ticket. It's BYOB, and we provide appetizers, so it's a nice night for a $30 ticket. And then in June, we'll have a clam boil on June 12th at LePage's for $25, fish and chips for $20.
Oh, there you go. And it's really a great membership. I mean, the Children's Museum is so amazing, but I wanted you to also talk a little bit about a yearly membership and what that can do, you know, for families, and then also kind of the business membership that,
that's
that you have.
the newest one. So we've had from the beginning memberships at a reasonable cost. So 2 family members, we call it an Explore, $60 for the year. A family of 4, $80. For grandparents, we give a $10 discount, so it's $70 for 4 people. And then the Discover Plus is one that is $125, and it has a reciprocal component to it. So there are 300 children's museums around the country that accept this pass for half price.
Oh, nice.
So it's free at our place for up to 6, and then other places you can get 6 people. So with my grandchildren living in New York, we use it all the time.
That's nice.
And we'll meet in Connecticut and go to a children's museum, and some of them maybe $14, $16, so half price is pretty nice. We also have passes with many of the local libraries, and you can sign up ahead of time for a library pass for half price. We have $3 after 3 for weekdays for folks to come in. We also have a grant from Bay Coast to help us subsidize EBT card holders. They can come in at any time for $3 as well. And then our newest introduction is a business membership. And it's $300 a year. And for that membership, you receive a pass for family of 4 for every day we're opened. So we've gotten, right now, our first 2 members. We were proud to say Primacare was our first, and they have a 2-week waiting list for the cards. So if you're a larger business, you could purchase more than 1. But we just rolled it out, and we're hoping more businesses will sign on.
Well, we look forward to more businesses as well, you know, being the Chamber of Commerce, and they can give you a call too if any businesses out there would like to participate in that program. So.
Please, be happy to hook them up.
Well, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for helping us get a children's museum here in the greater Fall River area, I guess you could say. And
yes, absolutely.
Thanks for taking some time out to talk with me today.
My pleasure, Jen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and don't forget to stop by and see the Children's Museum if you haven't done so. So it's a great place to go with the kids. And thank you for watching the Bristol Business Connection.